evening, good evening. How's everybody doing?
Can you see me?
Hello.
Hi, let me just go clean my glasses. Let me clean my glasses.
Hope
Let me
everybody
clean my glasses.
Hey, it's nothing like some good Shaka Khan, okay?
Hey.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight to our last and final session or last and final event for New York City HBCU Week. I am joined tonight with three amazing panelists. And tonight we're going to have a relatively quick discussion around paying for college. And so I'm going to, at this time, give everyone opportunities to introduce themselves, and then we'll jump into the topics of discussion. So anyone can jump in.
Sure. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Justin T. Manning. I have 8.5 years of financial aid experience working for CUNY Lehman, as well as being a graduate of Hampton University, master's in CUNY John Jay. So I'm definitely more than eligible and able to tell you about the difference of my HBCU financial aid experience versus the CUNY, SUNY, as well as student enrollment. So with that in mind, I'll take it away to Ms. Amber Peters.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amber Peters, a.k.a. Ms. P. Put some respect on my Z's, please. And I am the founder of On Track with Ms. P and the creator of the On Track for College app. I've been in college access work for about 6 or 7 years and in education for 13 whole years. So definitely more than qualified to teach you guys about how to hustle for that money for college.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Vanessa Sparks. I'm a student financial aid mentor, and I have more than 30 years of experience on the other side as a parent, as a staff person at SUNY Downstate Student Admissions, as a parent advocate, citywide parent advocate, assisting students and families navigate the student financial aid process for about 25 years. So I come from the very practical side of this. Meaning, we have information. Now let's find a way to take that theory and make it application and make it real.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much. And for those that may not be familiar with me, my name is Nicole Barnwell. I'm the president and founder of the HBCU Hub Incorporated. We are a HBCU advocacy organization that helps students to discover, prepare, enroll, gain acceptance to historically Black colleges and universities. And so super excited about this conversation because, as I'm sure you all know, paying for college is probably one of the biggest barriers that in particular HBCU students and really just Black students in general have when it comes to that time, to start looking at post-secondary plans. And so one thing that I really just wanted to start off with encouraging students, whoever may be watching, is to understand that college is an investment, right? You have to go into the conversation, into the process with that understanding, knowing that you're going to exert some kind of resource, in preparation. And so whether that's doing the work to like find scholarships, or whether that's the work, doing the work to, to discover like what major is the best fit, and like having the hard conversations with your parents around college. There's a lot of work. It's an investment in work and money and effort and money and finances and resources. So definitely just keep that in mind. And so I'm gonna just jump in and just start posing questions to the panelists around five like general like areas, and then you guys can like give your advice or insight around these 5 areas. I'm going to name them all, and then we'll go through them one by one. So one, definitely having the conversation, the family conversation. Second one is understanding and matching a person's goals in terms of, what they want to study, and then having like matching that with the right school. Talk about the FAFSA. I want to definitely talk about scholarships. I want to talk about crowdfunding, and last but not least, working and saving. So those kind of, those are like 5 different approaches that, I want to delve into. And so the first one, as it relates to having the family conversation, and Ms. Sparks, I want you to tap into, as I know you work with a lot of families, and you yourself, actually sent your daughter to HBCU. So what are some things that you would say, or how would you advise students to approach the conversation with their parents and their families when it comes to college?
Well, that's a great opening question, because the discussion around the college admissions financial aid process should always be a family topic. Unfortunately, oftentimes I find in our community, it's never discussed that way. Student gets to 12th grade. They said, the assumption is, oh, I'm going to college somewhere. There's not a family discussion around finances in terms of what's realistic, what is not realistic. Parents oftentimes are not honest with their children about what they can and cannot do financially in terms of going away to school. Unfortunately, as well as African Americans, I'm going to speak African American, there's not enough savings. People are not talking about saving money, putting money away towards college education. Oftentimes, we don't have some of those assets that families tap into to pay, and I don't advocate that, but for example, some people will, utilize if they own a home or if they have other assets to help students pay for college. But oftentimes the conversation is there's no family conversation, and actually the college admission process is truly a family journey. It's not the student's journey; it's a family journey, and it's a family's journey because their finances that are involved in it. So one of the things I would say is that we are not talking enough about it, and we're waiting too late.
Absolutely, I agree with that. Justin, Amber, any thoughts on the topic?
And we go ahead for it.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't know who was gonna go first, but yeah, I honestly, this is a conversation I'm always having, and I feel like we have been kind of set up to fail in that way because we're not taught that those conversations are necessary. So it's like we kind of jump over that fact that the family needs to come together, because at the end of the day, a young person cannot make that decision on their own. Unfortunately, right? Like, you get to choose what school you go to, but at the end of the day, those purse strings are still connected to your family. And so you have to be able to share that information between all of you. And I know it's uncomfortable for some people to talk about finances, and it is uncomfortable because it depends on what you have, right? Especially if you don't have a lot. Nobody wants to talk about that with their kids, because in our minds, I'm thinking by myself as a young person. And my mom was rich, right? I had everything I needed, right? So I'm not thinking that she doesn't have money. And when I learned that she didn't have money to send me away to college was when we had that talk, 12th grade year, right? When it matters. Now I'm like, oh, so yeah, I'm about to I thought I was going to Fayetteville State University. And my mom's bank account said, no, actually, you're not. You're staying right here. And so that conversation definitely needs to be had.
Definitely want to echo some sentiments that Amber and Miss Sparks definitely made. First and foremost, Miss Sparks hit it right on the head. It's a family discussion. And as I am the oldest in my family, and which means I'm the first to go to college, this was not a discussion that I had my sophomore, nor junior, nor senior year. It wasn't until my senior year, after going to Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated Teen Lift program, which I then have to go to the Teen Lift program and submit homework to go on a tour, to realize these are some questions that we never had full discussions about. And it was almost a disservice to my younger brother, thinking that he was going to go to an HBCU, to find out that it just wasn't in the budget because the firstborn son went out of state. So when I meet with my students, whether it is in office or otherwise with the family, the question becomes, why are you here? Where do you want to go? And majority of the students that come to my office are either transfer students from private universities, not just HBCUs, or otherwise, there are students that see the marketing for the college that I currently work at and say, it just didn't work out. So it starts at an elementary level. it starts with number one, elementary school. Where do you want to go? And more than likely, you're going to find a lot of public school kids saying, I want to go to Duke. I want to go to Georgetown. And you ask them why. And many times, many African-American brothers, I'm saying it to you because I am one of you, you're going to say Sports Center. Why? Because that's where your number one draft pick went. And my good friend Carl Anthony Towns Jr. knew he was going to University of Kentucky because he had the skill. But the difference is he had the skills. He was looking at other colleges. But otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, you don't just have one college you look at. And in all the college selection, your college selection should not be on ESPN. Your college selection begins as soon as you hit these nonprofit groups. So if it feels like I'm preaching, it's because I've done this for so many years.
Amen.
And if it feels as though, oh snap, he's really talking about something, it's because I've seen the pitfalls of financial aid. We'll discuss some of that later. Go ahead, Nicole.
Yeah, I love this. You know, an old person like me, when somebody gets to preaching good, they would take their purses and throw it in the pulpit.
Oh, not your purse. No, we don't want your money. Put your money in the offering.
That means that you are preaching good. I'm so glad you said it. Let me just quickly interject. I used to do college tours in the 1990s. And my tours were a little different. They weren't just HBCU schools. There was a mixture. We would select a whole city. And so funny, you talked about Georgetown. When we went to visit Georgetown, prior to us getting on the campus, the students thought Georgetown was a lot blacker than it actually is. And when we got to the campus of Georgetown, the students began to look around, and I heard students going 1, 2, and then, what do you count? Oh, we're counting the number of Black people we see. So I'm so glad that you gave that example, and I'm so glad that you talked about this conversation should start in elementary school.
Absolutely. And also, there's no knock to D1 schools at all. If you feel like you can afford being in D1 school, just understand something. When you go on Google and you look up University of Kentucky or you look at Syracuse University, you're not just looking at the tuition and fees. You're looking at tuition and fees times 4.
Absolutely. And so I love that, Justin, that you brought up, the fact that deciding on a college is not a linear, right? It's not a linear choice, right? There's so many different factors that, you have to consider in terms of, the major, and in terms of it's like any extracurriculars, like those are important as well. Location, right? And so what advice would you guys provide students, as it relates to that, like choosing, like actually moving forward once you've had the conversation with your family, your parents, or and you've had the conversation, and maybe that we'll talk about that a little bit. The fact that sometimes students may have to go out on their own, right? Venture on their own, and we've had to deal with that. I'm sure everyone knows a classmate who had to figure out this process on their own. That's part of the reason why the HBCU Hub exists, is so that we can provide that additional support to students who may be just trying to figure it out on their own. And so what are some words of advice that you would give as it relates to actually landing on a college?
I'll go first only because I just spoke last. Real quick, Hampton University was not my first choice. I actually wanted to go farther away from my parents, which was Florida A&M. Because why? Because Florida is where we went on vacation. Florida is sunny. Florida is warm. I don't have to worry about winter months or worry about Bloomberg shoveling these streets or anything like that. So my parents said, no, you're not going 12 hours away. You're going where we can find you in case you act a fool, because you're spending $24,000 out of your pocket for 4 years. So I already had family in Virginia. That's number one. Number two, adapted to a location means you also need to do your research. I went at a time when Google was just coming along, and I thought bodegas was on every street corner. They are not. When you learn in Virginia that everything closes at 7 o'clock, when you realize that you're no longer in Brooklyn, New York, you are in Hampton, Virginia, next to Bad News, Virginia, next to Virginia Beach. There's a lot of temptation. But you also realize that you are by yourself, which means that you are your own person. I'm not going to say your own man, but when you are on your own person, you need to know how to stand on your own 2 shoes. Mom and dad are no longer negotiating with the financial aid office. Mom and dad cannot withdraw your classes. Mom and dad will not be there on the weekends when you are on curfew. It's an entire experience being in an HBCU. And because I went to Hampton University, I'm a better person for it, but I can also think fiscally before I act emotionally.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of that. Definitely thinking about your return on your investment, because I feel like we don't look at it like a business, but it is. Colleges are their businesses. Right? And so we have to understand how they're thinking about it. So if they're thinking about fiscal money, right? If they're thinking about that, we also need to think about that when we're picking a college to go to. For me, I always meet young people who are they may end up putting their family into a bind, and just because they feel like this is a good experience, but then I ask them, like, what is the career choice that you're choosing, right? Because for me, I think with the end in mind. That's how I do. I want to go backwards. Let's see. Okay, so the career I have, is it going to be able to pay back any student loans or anything that I need to pay, anything that came out of my pocket? Is that going to be able to recoup any funding that I had to take out? If the answer is no, then maybe I need to start looking for other jobs that may put me in line so that I can be able to pay those things back. Also, really thinking about this as a smart choice. We got to be smart. We know the SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, relatable, time bound. We have to look at that goal as that so that we can have what we need. And people aren't doing that. They're just making choices, like you said, off of emotion, right? This is, oh my gosh, I can't wait. I can see it now. Oh my gosh, right? Roses and sunshine. But then when you can't pay for that first semester, or you get kicked out after your first year because you cannot pay, it becomes a whole different issue. And I've met too many students that have these loans that they are looking at like, oh my gosh, I have to pay this back now. Now I have a bill also. And I didn't think about any of the things that I wanted to do. So nothing is connected. Everything is disjointed. So you really want to think about the return on investment and also your strategy to go.
Yeah, I'm just nodding my head in agreement. And I always, when I work with families, because I work with families, I always start with, to thyself be true. I say to the students, to thyself be true. A lot of times, and I say that to the parents too, because a lot of times parents have illusions of grandeur on where their child should be because they want those bragging rights, not what's best academically, socially, or financially for the student. They just want to be able to say, my child goes to whatever the school is. So I always start with students, to thyself be true, because no one knows you better than you. If you know that you still need a lot of handholding in some way, you don't need to go away to school, at least not for the first year or two. Sometimes it's best that you stay closer to home, not just financially, but it gives you an opportunity to mature, because there's a big difference between 18 and 20 usually. It's only 2 years, but it's a huge difference socially and emotionally. I also say to families, don't get caught up in designer schools, meaning, parents like wearing the shirts too. My, whatever mom, whatever dad. And they're not thinking that this one may not be the best choice, or it may not be the best choice right at this second. When working with families, I have an assessment tool that I've been using for years, and it has a whole bunch of things. And one of the things I always say is, why do you want to go to college? And if your answer is because my parents said I have to go, then you may want to look at staying closer to home, not spending a lot of money, because your motivators are all wrong. And I like what Ms., and I'm putting the respect on the ZP, said when she said, it's a return on your investment. When I hear students talk about going to some big school, and I said, what are you majoring in? And they said business. I said, you can do business anywhere. You can major in business anywhere, because truth be told, it's when you go to graduate school, So I'll give you a quick example, because I like to give examples. I worked with a family about 7 years ago. I had recommended to this family that the young lady applied to a SUNY school. She was being raised by her grandparents. Okay, so independent student, which meant she would have qualified for an EOP. Her grades were, decent, and I just based on some facts that, applied to a SUNY school, and I gave her some choices, but the family, it didn't sound prestigious enough. air quote. She went to a school in Maryland, not an HBCU. She went to a PWI, and quite honestly, it was one that I had never heard of. So I guess it was very known in that area, but maybe not around the country. Long story short, the family, the grandparents wound out taking private loans for the first 3 years. When they got to the fourth year, they could no longer do it. She did not complete her fourth year. She owes the school money. She cannot get her transcripts, so she cannot even transfer someplace else here in the city to finish it out. And they are over $100,000 in the hole, all because of ego.
Wow.
That's an interesting point you
That
made.
is
That's
true, girl. That's true. But this is the thing that we
powerful.
need to be talking about because families don't understand this part. This happens so often.
It happens really often,
Yeah.
Ms. Sparks, but I definitely want to talk
Yeah,
about a few things Ms. Sparks broke down there. Let's break this down. When a lot of folks are asked what program you want to pursue, my ideal part was business, and the majority of students that come to me transferring, they also say business as well. You can't do business with anything. Even I changed my major from business administration, and I don't like math. So if you're not good with math, good luck, Chuck. So I switched to political science, which is why I'm the public speaker that I am today. But here's the thing. If you do business, Hampton University has a 5-year MBA program that you're charged at an undergraduate tuition. And some of this is not known until after you receive your admission letter, which means this research should have already been done. That's number one. Number two, other businesses, this is what I do, Ms. Sparks. Hold on a sec. So we got that part done. Number two, if you go about name chasing, be careful with the name chasing part. Otherwise, you end into a lot of debt. And then you're working with Ms. Peters to work on some non-traditional routes for you to get those gigs and other routes. We're going to talk on that later on how to survive. When you name chase or you chase clout, they do anything for clout by the words of Deacon Future and Offset, and Cardi B. Don't do that. The reason being is once you graduate from Hampton University or any HBU, somebody's going to ask, is that like Howard University? Is that like Howard or Morehouse where Martin Luther King is? And that depends where, of course, you submit your resume. So people are always asking for not just the name of where you graduate, but they're also looking for conflict resolution skills. They're also looking for if you have a high GPA as well. So much so, the amount of credits that you attempt on your collegiate career, undergraduate collegiate career, that's fine as long as you finish. It's never how you start. If you fall into a pitfall like Miss Sparks mentioned, where they go for, I hope I'm pointing to you the right way. You're over here, Miss Sparks. If you fall into a pitfall where you're in your 4th year and you're taking out loans, then you realize that you can't do it. Guess what? As a university, I don't care. Because at the end of the day, I got profit margins to hit. I got enrollment goals to hit. And you're stuck right here in Brooklyn, New York at a traditional school. So Ms. Sparks hit on something. If you don't understand or feel or make a conscious decision for yourself, I'm telling you right now, the best thing for you to do in this current environment where we got an election coming up, go to a community school at first. See what it's like, because many of those general elective courses can't transfer to an HBCU anyways. CUNY right now is charging for $7,000. Other private universities that are affordable charging for about $14,000. So you can make your choice. But those general elective courses will definitely help you and are transferable. That way you know if college is for you first before you go ahead out of state to a whole different culture. Bring that, yo, I'm from New York. It don't matter because you're not down south. You're not from up north, but you're right here in the middle, Virginia.
Yeah, right. And I think that I want to touch on this conversation around strategy, right? Because people think that you have to go right to college, like after high school. No, you can go to community college first, or you can maybe go to a lesser known HBCU, right? Or go to a community college or go to a in-state college for 4 years and then go do your master's at a HBCU. And so it's important that everybody understands that, anything is possible, right? And I think that, the point of this conversation is for us to provide information and also just encourage those that may not be sure on how they can do it. Just know that you can do it, but you might have to be creative. Understand you might have to be creative about how you approach your journey. Everybody's journey is different. Everybody comes with different circumstances, different levels of support, different level income backgrounds, the whole nine. So it's just important that everyone is just very clear, and just make sure that they are creative and thorough, in approaching this process. But I want to touch on the FAFSA, and you guys touched on something that I want you guys, especially, Justin, you're the financial aid officer at your school, and this whole, all of these like acronyms that we throw around, TAP, EOP, Excelsior, like, can we get you guys to break down what those mean and then how they connect to the FAFSA? Because I definitely want to dig into the FAFSA do's and don'ts, tips, tricks, whatever you guys can offer around that as well.
Can I say this? I always thought, Nicole, you've been to many workshops I've facilitated.
Absolutely.
I always explain to parents, and I have to tell you, one of the reasons why I'm very successful in what I do is because I take it from 30,000 feet in the air, because if you don't understand it, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. I always explain to families, FAFSA does not give you money. FAFSA is simply a tool that is used by the federal government, by the state government, by the college itself, and in many cases by scholarships, to determine your need for aid. I said, and need is not determined by us. Need is determined. I break it down. I said, so please understand. I understand that schools, in the past couple of years have been doing these, these drives and things to make sure or encourage students to file the FAFSA. One of the things they're not doing is making sure students are completing it accurately. So, FAFSA, for students that are their parents, and I hope FAFSA, free application for student aid, does not give you money. It is a tool. Just think of it like building a house. It is a tool that is utilized by the federal government, by the state government, by the college itself, and by many scholarships to determine your need. I'm gonna let Mr. Manning go on. He's the professional, and I'll jump back in it.
As a federal aid administrator, Ms. Sparks, thank you so much for that, because it's accurate. Your FAFSA gets reported to 5 different bureaus, ladies and gentlemen: Social Security, Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security, if I haven't mentioned that already, Veteran Affairs. Basically, everybody gets your information, including National Student Loan Data System, NSLDS, which means this. Why is the FAFSA so important? Because before we even consider your income, your stuff has to prove that you are you. There are several cases of people. I
could spin around in this chair.
Man, I'll give you a perfect case, Ms. Sparks, and for everyone else listening. I have seen some stuff in financial aid. If I ask you for proof of citizenship, I have been handed a fake passport. I've been handed fake certificate of naturalization, and I've seen people try to act on somebody else's finances to get their financial aid because it's money. And everybody thinks when you think CUNY or college or Excelsior Scholarship, Cuomo, that it means free tuition and fees. It does not. This is simply a barrier. And when I first took this position as a federal aid administrator, my supervisor told me, your job is not to say yes. We are a business. I'm going to say it again. Our job is not to say yes. Now, if you come to me, let's say you're trying to attend Hampton University. I'm going to plug as much as I can. You want to be part of that 5-year MBA program. I'm going to say, great, $24,000. But currently your financial aid shows that you got 7. Where's the other 17? Well, I don't know. My parents do this stuff. I don't know nothing about that. I'm going to ask you, do you have your Social Security card? Do you know what your birth certificate is? And most times the answer, Miss Sparks, Miss Peters, Miss P, is no.
No.
It's y'all that come to us. I'm saying y'all because I've been y'all. I've done graduated and everything else. So the first thing is your FAFSA needs to be done. It determines how much scholarship eligibility you're going to do. And I'm going to leave enough room for Miss Peters to give her answer. Scholarships are also in-house. And the reason why so many scholarships are being taken away from the Black colleges and universities is because we're not applying for them. And the majority of the scholarships that we have that are on campus, need-based, still not being, it's not that you don't qualify, but because you don't ask. If there's anything that I have learned from working with a bank or working with financial aid or a bursar office, you have to simply ask the right question. So if you ask me, why do I have a bill? I'm going to tell you why you have a bill. But if you keep working on the problem, but not the solution, I'm just going to answer your question straight on. Ms. Peters, you got the floor.
Yeah, I mean, with this, and that's the thing that really kills me, is that we need to be educated about what we're getting into, because there are parameters. So like, you're getting money, right? If you qualify, and it is based on need, solely based on need. So a lot of what I thought, even going into college, I thought when you said financial aid, everybody has access and everybody gets it. And that's not the truth, right? And we have to understand that even if you make a lot of money, even if you think you're not going to get aid, to still do the FAFSA, because you don't want to get locked out of any other opportunities for funding. That's really, really important. Yes. So when you're thinking about everything that goes with financial aid, yes, it's alphabet soup. It's a lot to learn, but that research is really, really important. FAFSA's website has a breakdown of everything, every single loan that they offer, the one for parents, and then they have one for students, right? Parents can borrow up to the full amount of tuition, right? Just because you can doesn't mean you should, though. And that's one thing that I'm always telling people, is just because you can doesn't mean you should. Students can only borrow up to $5,500. Some people have a little bit of wiggle room depending on the dependency status, right? If you're an independent student, which means you don't need your parents' information to file your FAFSA, you might get a little bit more.
Well, we're going to go there today.
Right? If you're dependent and you rely on your parents' information, your parents' income, then you are definitely going to hit that bump of the 5,500. So you really have to understand how this works, because this is what I'm noticing with students of color specifically, right? Because they don't understand how financial aid works, they're actually put at a disadvantage. So for me, I'm very conscious of talking to everybody who can listen, who got ears, about how this works, because it's really important that we're sharing the information back and forth, because people like to hoard information. They don't tell you. You're the one who's going to college. You get into college, you mess up, and then it's like, wait a minute, but why did they pull my aid? But why do I now have to pay? Or also understanding that sometimes when you have another sibling, that can also affect the sibling's aid. Maybe not yours, because I was fine, right? My brother, God bless his soul, my brother had to come out of pocket for a lot of his stuff, because our family income, my mom got married and things changed, right? Our whole family income status changed, and what we had to provide, right, had to come out of pocket. And he had to come out of pocket. He was actually working and going to school at the same time and putting money in, and I didn't have to do that. So it's really, really important that you really just understand all of that and do the due diligence to do your research. It's really, really, really important, because anybody can sell you a dream. And that's what I noticed. People like to act like they know, and they're going to tell you stuff based on their situation. But what the FAFSA does, it's your individual situation. Right? It's judging you against your family's income, not somebody else's income, not your best friend's income or your cousin's income, because it's not going to be the same.
Let me just add this. The other thing is, we talked about this being a family conversation. I've worked with many, many, many families. And when you talk about FAFSA completion, and wealth or wealth is relative depending on who you're talking to.
Yeah.
So I have worked with students who I did a workshop about 2 years ago, and there was a young man there, and talking about the free application for student aid. I want to stop using the acronym, like free application for student aid, aka
.gov. .gov.
That's right. .gov, not .com. .gov. And he said to me, oh, I'm not going to get any money because my mother makes too much. Now, I know the audience that I was in front of. I don't make any assumptions, but I make educated guesses. So I said to the young man, I said, well, how do you know how much your mama make? I talked to him. He said, my mother makes $45,000 a year. But on this, and I said, so I pulled him to, I said, listen, you need to file this FAFSA. I said, and I had to hear $45,000 a year. But keep in mind, in his circle, his mom probably was doing better than many of the folks in his circle. All things are relative. So, I also, not enough discussion is about around the CSS profile, okay, which is a whole nother beast. And I always say to families, I said, poor is relative to who you're talking to. If you are in the circle and the majority of people there make about $500,000 a year, and here you come with your 125, you poor. You go talk to some people that make about 40 grand a year with your 125. And so this is why these family conversations have to take place. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, here's the deal. We want to make very clear that the FAFSA is not just limited to income, but it's also about knowledge. So I'm going to spit knowledge game to you about what we do on the back end. Number one, if you feel your mother, just like Miss Peters over here, makes too much money, that's not it. We look at wages first. That's obvious. The second part to Miss Peters' story was the household size. In the case of Miss Sparks was saying that the mother makes $45,000, which means there's already two people in the house making $45,000, and there's some college expenses there. Now, if there's only one person in the household making $45,000, you have a problem. But that's two, so that betters your chances. The third part, going back to Miss Peters, it's the number of people in college currently. As she mentioned before, if you have a sibling that is also going to college, that further increases your chances of receiving it, because both kids already have their FAFSA reported saying, hey, I need help. And if they don't have a FAFSA on record, they have a clearinghouse to show an enrollment letter.
What do you mean when you say receive? I just want to make sure that if anyone is listening that may not understand or be familiar, that they understand what you mean by receives it. So receives aid, receives Pell, like be specific.
Okay, so that's where I'm going to go to.
You understand?
So FAFSA generates for you
not
just your scholarship, but also generates for you something called the Pell Grant, PELL grant, and that Pell Grant is determined by a formula called an EFC. When you do your FAFSA, it's an expected family contribution, EFC, that you want as close to zero as possible. Now, the cutoff for this formula, which includes the three things I mentioned out of the five, is about 5,400, and that changes. But don't worry about that part. I got to get through the other two so you can see the five to get to that EFC of zero. That's what you want. So wages is number one, household size is number two, college size is number three. Who is in the household? By the way, did you know that if you are in college and Miss Peters' younger sister is about to go to college, Miss Peters can come to me in the office and say, hey, my sister just got accepted into college. How does that impact my financial aid? And you will receive more Pell Grant eligibility. The problem is we just don't know how to ask to receive that Pell Grant that Nicole is asking me to mention. So that's number three. The fourth one is called untaxed income. What is untaxed income? Now I'm speaking to the parents. Are you receiving any child support? Are you paying any child support? If you have proof that you're paying child support, then that's less income that you have. So, of course, you're going to make more money. Untaxed. IRAs, rollover pensions as well. Take a look at those. And if you do have a rollover pension, parents, please make sure it's on your 1040 tax return. The fifth one. You need public assistance. If you are receiving public assistance, SNAP, TANF, WIC, it's not an automatic zero of an EFC. Your goal is to have a zero with that FAFSA. However, if you do present a public assistance letter, I need to show Nicole's on that letter, Miss Sparks on that level, Miss Peters on that letter. Because if you're talking about your dog and your goldfish, and I've seen those requests, you're probably not getting as much Pell Grant as you want to. I don't care if your neighbor just moved into the house or Abuela just moved in because she's sick or whatever it is. That's cool. But you need to document that proof that Abuela is actually moved into the house. There was another part that Ms. Peters mentioned, professional judgment. It's not always the case that you do or that you don't qualify for financial aid. Circumstances happen. In this case, the last couple months, we're currently experiencing a pandemic. So number 45, passed an act called the CARES Act, where the majority of our students received a check in the mail. I'll just say a check because the amounts have been different. And this is monies that you can use not just for yourself, but also for any expenses like your books or your outstanding balances. Now, the way that you get the CARES Act in case stuff happens, because it will, is by doing a FAFSA anyway. I cannot stress that enough. You, instead of paying to play, y'all, we are giving you a free application for student aid. And that's how I know that you're interested. You don't get the job unless you put in the resume. You don't get financial aid unless you do a FAFSA. Absolutely.
Say it again. Parents, FAFSA, free application for student aid. Free, meaning please don't pay anyone.
Yo, don't pay nobody. So
nobody.
Let me tell you something. What I do for free. That's what we do. When Ms. Peters talked about doing research, talk to a financial aid counselor, because this is what we are paid to do. If you talk to Joe Blow to do your taxes, let me go there. Parents, if you do a 1040 tax return with Joe Blow down the street, Joe Blow's going on vacation from June to December in case you need to make changes to your taxes for that FAFSA. Because when I get your 1040 and I see Joe Blow's name and his EIN that's on there, I'm going to tell you, hey, this is inconsistent taxes. You need to amend or change your taxes, parents. And you're going to say, well, Joe Blow don't come back till December. Then I guess you ain't applying for financial aid until December. But I did apply for financial aid. These taxes are unacceptable. Well, who do I speak to? Joe Blow in Bermuda. That's who we speak to.
Yes, please. Let me just say this to families that may be here. One of the things that, and I'm sure Mr. Manning and Ms. Peters they've seen this, and particularly the past couple of years. You have a lot of individuals that are CFAs that are going about trying to learn just enough of how to complete the FAFSA, because parents, there is no trick to complete the FAFSA. Let me just tell you this. There is no trick. If I'm going to tell you, oh, I can complete your FAFSA for you and get you more money, they're lying. And they're going to lie, and you're going to pay the price. Okay?
Don't pay nobody do something we do for free, especially if it's not guaranteeing you money. I've seen people pay $400 to get $500, Miss Sparks.
Yes, and so what I've been seeing in the past maybe 4 or 5 years is a lot of people that are CFAs that will take just enough, and in fact, they have some sort of accreditation now. I saw it somewhere online, and they'll go through this six courses or whatever it is, and they get a certification, and they'll go to families and say, "Oh, by the way, you can pay me an additional $400 and I can complete your FAFSA." Don't do that. Just as they said, converse with individuals like the individuals here, about how to complete the FAFSA. What should you and you shouldn't put. I had someone call me last week, said, I received child support. Should I put that on there? I said, yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's income.
It's income. I said, and I'll tell you something else. Let's just bring it to what's today, the 9th, October 9th, 2020. We are still in a pandemic. We are fiscally, this country is in an absolute mess. We've got an administration. I don't need to go in. This is not the time to be lying on these FAFSA forms. If there was a time not to tell a lie, it is now. This is not the time to tell a lie. And it was never the time, but especially not now. We have families that have lost income, that have legitimately lost their jobs. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you something else, families that are here. This is also the time. Closed mouths don't get fed. Yes, this is the time to begin to have conversations with the financial aid officers at said school. If you lost your job or if you lost income because of this, what we're going through, the moment you submit your FAFSA, you need to be sending an email to that school and letting them know. I know what the 2019 taxes says, which, by the way, for school year 2021-2022, that's the tax year they're going to use. But I lost my job in April.
Yep.
There you go.
Don't
say something to me. You don't say something to me, I'm not guessing your situation, y'all. You put in your FAFSA, the federal government, number 45 done told me you get $2,000. That's it. Now,
and if,
you can, let me go there, Ms. Sparks. So the Pell Grant can definitely give you more than $2,000. Ms. Sparks is talking about you receiving as close to a zero EFC. A zero EFC awards you $3,300 plus a semester. Free. That's it. If you have a change of circumstance, especially now, you need to report this to the financial aid office. But let me get to the basics. When you do your FAFSA, we don't receive your information until 3 to 5 business days after the FAFSA is submitted. You will receive an email confirmation saying the school has received it. We don't, because it still has to go through Department of Justice, Homeland Security, et cetera, to tell me that you did not, default on a loan, that you are actually who you say you are, or even that you made a mistake on your FAFSA where you put your last name as your first and your first name as your last. So that's already a flag for me. So now we have to delay your stuff even further, which goes to my point with Ms. Peters. Make sure that you do your research and do it with someone who does it with integrity and with very little mistakes. The amount of paperwork that we ask you to bring in is paperwork you already have. It's your 2019 taxes, like Ms. Sparks already stated. And if your taxes are not straight, or you pay Joe Blow in Bermuda over there to take care of it, you're in trouble. So it takes you to another level. You would then have to go to the IRS. Internal Revenue Service is not bad. They're actually there to I've had students that have had taxes filed against them, and they had another form that they presented to me in the absence of a tax return. An IRS office, doesn't matter where you go, will present to you something called a tax transcript. A tax transcript is reported as long as you submitted your taxes electronically. It's faster that way. So I definitely recommend, as Justin Manning, not as a federal aid administrator, not in student enrollment, go to a tax service that is nationwide and reputable that everybody knows. Why? Because if I ask you for your taxes and you forget them, or you don't know where they are, it's already recorded online. Just build your username and your password. We print it out and we're done. Otherwise, I'm going through your Yahoo email with you while you sit next to me, scrolling through all of your Hello Kitty stuff or whatever else to find your taxes that you know in that email address. But it's real. So that's just the basics. The FAFSA is free. It's right there in the ticker. You also want to apply for any state aid as well. State aid gives you just about the same amount of money as the Pell Grant, and people don't know this. Folks, if you're applying for Virginia, Maryland, DC, it's called the TAG, about $3,000. So already have $6,000 maximum that you can receive of the $24,000 for Hampton University. And the requirements for this HBCU hub is very much what we're raised to do. We are raised to go to college and try to finish within 4 years. And all the incentives they have for you to finish in 4 years goes with the money, which means, let me say it again for Ms. Sparks, because Ms. Sparks definitely didn't hear me. Your goal. No,
I heard you.
I'm making it very clear.
She agreeing with you.
This mic on. I'm playing with you, Ms. Sparks. Make this clear. You are here to graduate on time. If you're not on time, it is expensive. $24,000 times 4, that was the plan. 24,000 times 4.5. Where this half come from? Whoa, what is this? It's because you are not following the guidelines, and now I got to take it a step further. If you don't follow the guidelines of staying full time, if you don't follow the guidelines of withdrawing, then I take away your money.
Let me say something else to this. Students, listen, woohoo. You know, there is now, I'm older than all of you here. So when I was college age, it wasn't called Pell. And they used to mail people the checks. So let me tell you what people used to do with them checks that they used to mail to them. They would go shopping. They would go on vacation. They would do all of those things. Everybody would get a piece of that money except for the school. So the federal government got hip to that. You know, now they'll send the money directly to the school. But there's something else that happened. Now you cannot be a career student and continue to get free money from the federal government. There is a 12 semester maximum. I've known people, I kid you not, I'm gonna put his business out there. My sister's first husband, who is 68 years old. When I met him, I was 9. He was going to school up until about 6 years ago. You heard what I said? There are people that well, you don't see them so much anymore. There used to be people that were career students. Their career was to go to school. They never seemed to finish. And they would just keep getting money from the government and keep getting money from the government. So some years ago, they said, you know what? Enough of this. You can have 12 semesters. Let me tell you why this is important. And it goes back to something that Mr. Manning and Ms. Peters and I said earlier about, knowing your purpose and knowing why you're going to school. You go to school and you jam up a year, you done messed up, with everything you pay for in college, everything. So you go and mess up a year and you're getting Pell, but you're paying for it, but you're not getting the credit. You've already eaten into 1 year of that maximum.
That's it.
So
that change that you're talking about happened from Bush to Obama. Bush would have it where it wasn't 12 semesters, it was 18 semesters. Obama came in and said, wait a minute. And I'm going to tell y'all a story of how the FBI showed up to my office. Showed up to my office one morning, and these some tall white folk. They look just like Men in Black, and they skipped the whole line. Yes, there are lines in financial aid. If you want to skip the line, y'all better listen to me. You'll be there all day. They come in, they show their flash. Hello, my name is Nicole Barnwell. They show it, and as soon as you see the badge, the whole kind of went, oh, we said, oh, snap. So this is my first time with the FBI, by the way. I said, I didn't do it. They go, ha, we not here for you, Mr. Manning. I didn't say my name. They said, we're here to talk to your associate director. I said, okay, cool. Follow me this way. I'll speak to my associate director.
You know what?
Are you busy? So, of course, real quick. Like, please. Wow, y'all know me already. Basically, what was happening is, Ms. Sparks, Ms. Peters, Nicole, Ms. Barnwell, there was a student that was taking refund checks back in the early 2010s. And we put a stop to this within the CUNY system. We would give students a $600 book check 1 week, 2 weeks into the semester begins. The semester begins, y'all, usually for CUNY anyways, the last week of August or right after Labor Day. HBCUs is a little bit different. We come in for freshman orientation. We there like second week of August, get acclimated. Virginia's for me, 2 up, 2 down. This gentleman was receiving checks early and full. So he's getting $2,000 checks and would then withdraw. Then he would go to Kingsborough. Then he would go to Brooklyn College. Then there are 16 schools in CUNY, y'all. 16.
Scammer.
So he was racking. And for those that don't know, $2,000 that's a mortgage. Let's put it there. This gentleman was asked to be in the green room, and we ain't heard from him since. So that's why Obama changed that around to say from 18 semesters to 12. And I'm saying this to y'all. If you get a refund check, that money has already paid out, which means that if you decide to withdraw from a class from below 12 credits, that's called full-time status, but you don't reach your obligation, the Pell Grant will still pay, but the state grant can ask for that money back. If I don't catch it,
and I've seen it many times.
It happens. So you're going to go and say, yo, and I'm not playing.
They don't play.
You don't play.
Time is moving.
Run me that money.
One of the last, about the last topic, which is pretty much like scholarships and like alternative like sources of income as it relates to paying for college. So I know definitely UNCF, especially for UNCF and Thurgood Marshall College Fund, everyone needs to have a TMCF or UNCF account. Make sure that you're looking out for those emails and the scholarships open. And in general, like hit up your college office and your schools and make sure that you are taking advantage of any scholarships that they know about and they can share with you. One thing that we always encourage is for students to open, especially if you go on the way, you have a large bill, open up a GoFundMe account. Christmas is coming up. Instead of, asking your families for gifts, ask them to, throw a couple hundred into your GoFundMe so that you can get your, some help with paying for college. And so, you guys have any other, thoughts or advice as it relates to scholarships?
Go ahead.
Feel free.
So for me, this is what I tell people, and like for any of you guys watching, I'm going to be having something in November. It's like I curated this scholarship webinar because people don't know how to look for scholarships and they don't understand what goes into it. So here's the thing. when you are looking for any type of money to go to college, be ready to work. And you cannot skimp on the work, right? You cannot be afraid of it. You can't get mad that you got to write an essay. You can't get mad that you got to do a short response. You have to do the work. And because a lot of people aren't doing the work, a lot of those scholarships. So it's really, really important. So one of the things I ask people to do is to really think about where they stand, just like in general. How much money do I have? How much can I contribute? What is responsible for me to contribute? And then work from there. If I know that, let's say, I'm not going to be able to put into a lot of money, and I'm looking at the school and it says $24,000, right? And I need $22,000, then I really need to start thinking about that plan and really thinking about how I'm going to secure that money. Scholarship is a great way to do that. And there's tons of scholarships that are open and available. You have to be willing to do the work. So there's tons of things. We have My Scholly. It's not a free service. I think it's like $40-something a year, but if you get on it, right, it is very helpful to connect you to scholarships that will support you. Like she said, UNCF. We have tons of different things. FastWeb, Career One Stop. So many different search engines that you can use to find scholarship money. But like I said, it is work. It is a hustle. I like what Nicole said about looking for alternate forms of funding and like asking family, like your family to kind of chip in, right? But also understanding how these things are paid out, because there's a difference between a renewable scholarship and a non-renewable scholarship, right? You might have tons year one, and then year two, you're struggling to figure out how you're going to pay for school. So you also want to make sure that you read the fine print. That is something that I always, all of that, ask the questions. You like, that's the other thing, is advocating for yourself is something that you absolutely have to do. And part of advocating for yourself is asking questions. The questions that you don't ask are the dumb ones, right? That's the ones that get you jammed up. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask the school, hey, how much money can you add, right? And what's going on over there? My grades look good. My test scores look good. Do you have any institutional aid that you can support me with?
Yes.
So it's definitely about you advocating for yourself, asking questions, and then also auditing your circle. Who can lead you to money? Who are those people? Who are your friends, right? Your friends, your family members, do they work at places that offer scholarships? There's a lot of corporate money that goes unclaimed. I always get people that are like, hey, my job wants to give a scholarship to somebody. And it's just like, what? They just want, oh, really? Right? And they're just waiting to give away money, but you have to be in position for it.
Yeah. I agree, Miss Peters. I'm retired from my job. As I said, the job that paid my mortgage. I was an administrator with the New York State Department of Health. I worked for the state of New York for 32 years and retired about 2 years ago. And if New York City is a huge union town, right? You have, city employees, state employees, most people that work, even private employees, but it's a big union town. We don't have almost every union, I can't think of one, does not offer a scholarship of some sort. We simply don't, we don't ask. You kick over every rock. There are no scholarships that are too large or too small. I'm so glad you talked about renewable money, because sometimes we don't ask that question, and that makes the difference in whether a student can still attend that school year 2 versus year 1. A lot of colleges, and you're going to see a lot of it now, you're going to do a whole lot of front loading. Find out they're going to do a whole lot of front loading. I think that means, or they're going to, even though they ain't going to say it, they're going to do a whole lot of need sensitive admission, if you know what I mean.
Wait, Ms. Jones, I want you to repeat what you just said. I want you to repeat what you just said, because it was going in and out.
Okay.
It was important stuff. So I want you to say that again. Just a little slower.
Okay, so really quick, during times of fiscal uncertainty in the country, because that's as Peters and Mr. Manning said, colleges are business. Some schools will do something called front loading. meaning depending on who you are, they will give you a great award. They'll package it nicely for the first year. And then you go the second year and you say, well, this is not there. And I'm not getting that. And it's all of it on the front end. Many schools are not going to attempt this, but whenever we go through periods of fiscal uncertainty in this country, many schools will do something called need-sensitive admission, meaning although most schools don't take into consideration your ability to pay when they're reviewing your application, some schools will do this. They'll have two students that are very similar, on paper. But when they look at the finances for student one, it appears, at least on paper, that their family has more of an ability to pay than student B. And they will accept student A simply because their family, on paper at least, appears to have the ability to pay. I don't have any empirical proof that this is going to be done. It's just been my experience. Whenever we go through periods of fiscal uncertainty in this country, you see a lot more of that. So this is why Mr. Manning and Ms. Peters and Mr. Buck, we're talking about really starting this process very early. You are a junior or a parent of a junior in this line. This is where you start getting that information and doing your research now. Because we don't know what, we're talking about school year 2021, 2022. We don't know what school year 2022 and 2023 is all about. So it's important that you arm yourself, you educate yourself, do the research about various types of schools. Now, I just take this when we talk about HBCUs. One of the things we all make families assume is that HBCUs don't give money. I mean, the guidance counselors make that assumption as well. But it's not true. We don't go and ask. There are many institutional funding sources within the school that we don't even know about. They're not on that front on their website. You have to actually go and ask. Listen, I'm going to be a biology major. Can I speak to the head of the biology department to see what monies that may have come in that way? So it's all about being prepared. It's about being creative.
Wow, that was powerful. I'll definitely say this with regards to any scholarships. There are plenty of your favorite rappers you listen to that do offer scholarships. Sean Carter has a scholarship foundation that's offered every February. Everyone needs to get on that. He does rap about it, but not as often because he's talked about it for over 5+ years. That's first. Second, the places where we eat currently do offer scholarships. Burger King, Wendy's, McDonald's, they got this stuff. And the places where they push these scholarships at these locations, these franchises, are not in our neighborhoods. I'm gonna say it again. If you go to Midwood, Brooklyn, if you go to Yorkville, Manhattan, you will see the push for the scholarships. When you go to Burger King on Remsen Avenue on the B17, Canarsie, you have to inquire about it because it's on the back of your receipt, or there's a nice little slip there that you're not going to look at because you're ordering at the menu on top of that.
Stop eating at Burger King, McDonald's. The third one is let me just put that out there. Let's cut down. I won't say stop. Let's cut down on the McDonald's and Burger King. I'm gonna just put that out there.
Yeah, let's definitely not do that, y'all. There's definitely some stuff. There's some better choices, but there are also scholarships that come with those choices. There are scholarships that will give you $500 because your last name is Manning. Got it. There are scholarships that are because Beyonce has a scholarship for just being a black-owned business. And there's never been an age limit on owning a business. There has never been an age limit on it, if you know how to function that. But that's for another workshop. But one of the things that I'm seeing on a private college, Hampton University, private colleges versus CUNY, SUNY, is the amount of money that they are willing to give. And the university I work at, if you were to have a bill and you've done your FAFSA, we will give you something called a merit-based scholarship. The dean maintaining relationships will also give you scholarships as well. It does not take for you to be a student athlete for you to have money applied. No. If you have at least a GPA of a 2.5, that's an okay start. That's the bare minimum. Like I tell everybody else, showing up is just 80%. Showing up with a plan is 85%. But showing up with a plan and to effectively communicate what you need, well, that's an A. And that's what's going to give you a scholarship. Now, let's get technical, because a lot of us that are entering colleges, universities, and showing up in my classrooms don't know the difference between there, and there. Your grammar has to be on point, and I am not laughing at all. If you are asking for a scholarship and I give you an application and you're asking me, well, what do I write? You're already in the wrong place. But if I'm already telling you, hey, read the scholarship to answer your own question there, your answer has to match the integrity or the amount that you're requesting for. I got students that are requesting for scholarships to pay off a $7,000 bill. Well, at the least you can do is just answer the question. Put your periods where they are, cross your T's, dot your I's. Answer the question and make it not one long sentence, but make it a paragraph. A paragraph is at least 4 to 5 sentences, y'all. And we're at the stage and age where, yes, there's text messages and everything. I know the new iPhone 12 is coming out, but at the end of the day, your instructor remotely requires you to know how to use Zoom, including Microsoft Word and Excel. So if you can do those two things, you'll have a successful scholarship.
Yeah, definitely GPA. I would definitely encourage, because a lot of the scholarships are not 2.5. The requirement is at least a 3.0. And so it's important that you guys, your junior year, your first semester of your senior year, definitely make sure that those GPAs are on. Okay, do we have any questions? Anyone in the comments want to leave a question?
Yeah, drop
I don't
them.
know, Bilal, do we have any questions? Shout out to Bilal Hassan, who is...
Hi, Mr. Bilal.
Great job, Bilal.
Tonight. Thank you, Bilal.
Snap. HBCU Hub gives out scholarships. D9 gives out scholarships.
Go pre-register for HBCU Hub University. It's our college access program. We are creating the New York City to HBCU pipeline. So please go hit our website.
I'm sorry. I want to add something, because I hope there's some parents watching. When you talked about various options or alternative options, and for many years, I used to discourage parents from dipping into their retirement fund to pay for kids' college. I always discouraged that. But every now and then something comes along, and you got to rethink it. So I'm sure it's like this, I'm sure around the country, but let's just talk about New York City. Many high schools in New York City allow students to take college courses while they're in high school.
Yep.
And there's some schools that there's some schools that students graduate with an associate's degree as well as their high school diploma. So there's one young man I know who graduated 65 college credits, in fact. He went to Johnson C. Smith. They accepted 60 of the 65. He was able to get some institutional money, and it left a gap of maybe about $12,000 from the overall cost of attendance. He two-parent household, both his parents. One parent took out a loan against their retirement and had it paid off in a year. And the next year, the second parent did the same, because he only was in college 2.5 years, because he went in with 60 college credits. So he was able to graduate from college, from Johnson C. Smith, with a bachelor's degree in 2.5 years with no loan debt to either him or his parents.
I love it. An
example like that is something where I say I had to rethink a parent dipping into their retirement. But generally, I really discourage parents from going into their retirement accounts to pay for college. Just as a general.
And college now, that's another option, right? In addition to the AP classes.
College now is awesome. And like you said, Miss Vanessa said, you have to look into those programs, especially if you have young ones that are, pretty talented and can handle doing college coursework. Because that's the other thing, is like, not everybody can do high school classes and college classes at the same time. But if your kid is pretty talented and can handle it, definitely do it. I had a client as well who was able to get, I believe, 24 credits. And they were accepted, and now she has a shortened span of being in college, which means she doesn't have to come out of pocket as much. So that's definitely something to look into, and just really thinking about that strategy and that plan, because I like how those parents tackled that, right? So it's like you go first and I go next. But that's all about strategy and also conversation and being open about who's going to do what and who's going to do what when.
Absolutely. And also,
Excellent.
I know testing out of classes is, I don't know, I'm not too familiar with that process, but I know that's an option, at least for some of the classes. I think there's a cap on
CLEP, if they do CLEP. So CLEP is a program by a College Board, and you can take CLEP credit. So pretty much what it is, you take a test, it's like $85 to $95. When it actually speak to the school and see if they are going to accept these credits before doing it. But that's definitely a way to kind of knock some stuff off your bill, because if you can get rid of like your core coursework, your history, your English, and things of that nature, knock those off with a CLEP test, $85. You sit down for a couple of hours and get that out the way. Now you have 3 college credits that you only sat for a couple of hours for instead of a full semester.
Absolutely.
And then also taking classes. So like for me, I took classes during the summertime at community college in New York. So like went to Hampton, and then on the summertime when I came home to New York, I would take classes. Well, I really did that because I didn't want to fail calculus again. Like I was, that was my way of like not having my. Like, all I did was pass the grade. Right.
Do what you gotta do, girl.
You just have to get a C. Like you just have to pass it, because the grade wouldn't be reflected in your GPA. So, for whoever is out there that may be looking for on that end, where it's like, certain classes that may have been tough for you and you want to, avoid from having, you want to keep your GPA high essentially and have classes, have the credit, but not necessarily the grade, that's an option. But I think it also would help in terms of tuition, because you're paying a bit less tuition, especially if you go to a regular, if you go to a private college and you come home and you take classes at a community college. So usually it's just cheaper.
I'll hit you with 3 things real quick, Nicole. That was perfect. First, Hampton University has something called Summer Bridge. If you haven't heard of it, basically you can go and inquire with the university and say, hey, I'm a graduating senior. This summer, I want to take 2 classes just to see if it's for me. And in Hampton, Summer Bridge really got me to see what the culture is like to dorm with someone who is from North Carolina. I'm from Brooklyn, so I'm a little bit loud, but you couldn't tell. But I definitely knocked out some core competencies with my math as well as my history class. So I already had a 3.5 before my first semester. That's a leg up. Before I did Summer Bridge with Hampton, I was taking IP and AP courses at my high school that I knew that they could take. If there are those that are interested in those IP courses, you can inquire with your high school now, since it's the beginning. Maybe it might be too late. But what we do on the admissions end is look to see how you score on College Board. That's what we're doing remotely. How did you do on the test? Because you can take the class, but if you take and pass the test, that is going to determine if we're going to take your credits. The university I'm at now with IP, AP, y'all, we look for credit. We look for a score between 3 and 5 or 3 and 6, 3 and up. That's what I'll say, 3 and up to determine if you get the credit or not. The cutoff is 3. Okay. So if you have that, great. Ms. Peters mentioned about pathways. If you are attending a high school that has CUNY pathways, do it. It does not mean that it is exclusive to CUNY, however. If you were to take a CUNY pathway course, you might be able to go to Hampton University and say, look, I took these pathway courses here. Does this mean I can skip history or get credit for a history class? Do that. Otherwise, if you feel that because it's a pandemic and because we're all working remotely, that you want to be enrolled in a CUNY class by spring 2021 or fall 2021, do it. You have 12 credits to your name. That makes sense, and it saves you money. Okay, that's dollars. The most important thing I do want to leave y'all with is you need to ensure that you have a high school transcript. There are places that you can go to on Google to do so, but the high school transcript basically tells me, an enrollment officer, that you did take these classes, that you did graduate, and if you don't show me a high school transcript and you're interested in going to a private school here in New York or SUNY school, CUNY school, I can take away your TAP because I have no proof you graduated other than a high school diploma. I know you graduated. I get that. But these requirements are going up, and then the excuses are cut down more because we all are sitting behind Zoom or anything else. You'll find a way. So please go ahead and get the high school transcript. Ask your parents for a 1040 tax return now. Make sure that it's with a tax preparer that you actually trust in case there are any issues. And most importantly, make a friend at the university. No matter what university you choose, make a friend. Because after all, there are on-spot admission officers. Delta Sigma Theta Teen Lift, I got to go back to them. I've seen at least 5 students come off the bus dressed appropriately. Don't y'all show up with a Hampton University sweatshirt. That's not what you do unless you are going to Hampton. I might give you some brownie points. But if you step off that bus with a good jacket, white shirt, black tie, looking professional, you're not wearing white socks with black shoes, you might just be interviewed to get to the next process. And I say this so passionately because I've rejected work study students that interviewed to work in my office. So good luck.
Thank you for those final words, Justin. Amber, any final words to lead the folks with?
Like I said, do your research. So, you want to make sure that you are speaking to the institutions and seeing what they have available. You ask them questions, because I noticed also, like with this last year, with this pandemic, a lot of people chanced a lot of things when they could have simply just called the admissions, called financial aid, and asked questions to avoid any unnecessary hardship. So it's really important that you ask questions, you do your research. Asking questions is actually a big part of research. Also, shameless plug, sorry, download my app on Track for College if you want to learn more about the process, because all the links that we talked about a bunch of links, and I hear a bunch of links that I need to be adding to make sure that you guys have it. But download On Track for College so you can get information and tips. It's completely free. But it's, like I said, research is very, very key to this process, and also having those conversations. I know sometimes we're not as comfortable, because I think in conversations we want to hear a yes, we want to hear people affirm us, we want to hear people say, yeah, you're right, yeah, we're going to do that option. And sometimes that's not what happens in a conversation. You have to compromise somewhere. So just have those conversations and do your research. Nicole, I see somebody has a question in the chat about Spelman and Howard. I don't know off the top of my head, so just so you guys are like past it.
My daughter's a senior and she has her eyes on Spelman and Howard. Are these the schools that have a generous grant in place to help students stay? I am not too familiar with the process, the scholarship process at Howard. We did have Spelman and Howard on at our HBCU, our virtual HBCU fair on Monday. So I can, if you connect with me personally, I can get those answers for you and get more information about their scholarship process. I agree, they did in fact get a lot of money these past few months, but I'm not sure how they will be utilized exactly,
right.
or like what that process is. So if you just connect with me, Bilal, can you please drop my email? I will. We'll get those answers to you. Any final words?
Yes, I want to say thank you first of all putting this forum together. I've just fallen in love with Mr. Manning and Miss Peters. So you'll be hearing from me. I love the energy. So again, parents, do not wait. If you have not applied, you need to apply yesterday. 2, I just want to give some very practical things to parents. Parents, get copies of your children's credit reports now. Make sure that there's nothing on their credit report. You can go to annualcreditreport.com. You can get copies of all 3 credit reports from all 3 of the crediting agencies. I encourage parents to do this. Again, this goes back to family conversations around finances. Again, it's not an impossible, it's a journey. Just understand this is a journey, and you learn, as you learn more, you build upon that. And the last thing, students, parents that are graduating, Mr. Manning talked about transcripts. I also am going to encourage you to make sure you reach out to your school's guidance counselors or college advisors and ask for school profiles, and ask to have something in writing that says what the grading policy was for spring 2020 at your school or school district. FYI, because Miss Barnwell knows me and the Auntie Nessa, and I was on Zoom with the New York City Department of Education a couple of days ago and asked that question, and I'm still waiting for an answer.
As a parent of a high school junior, I'm thankful for, and thank you so much, Mandy, and all the parents for joining. Trina, to answer your question, from my experience, the overall tuition was especially for HBCUs, it was reduced. I'm considering this semester classes were held online, so that is true. That is true. The tuition cost was reduced. Would me having student loans affect my child from receiving grants? Anyone want to take that one?
I'll take that one. Please restate the question. Make sure I heard it right.
Well, can you pull it up?
Got it. Okay. Would you having student loans affect your child from receiving grants? No. The very first thing is the student's grant eligibility is based, of course, on your taxes, assuming that the student is under the age of 24. Once that student puts it in, it is under his or her name, regarding how much loan eligibility they have. However, the one issue that HBCUs have had is that Parent Plus loan, and that Parent Plus loan regards the parent's credit. Parents, Black parents, I'm specifically talking to you right now. If you know that it costs $24,000 to go to Hampton University, and after that $3,000 and $3,000, you got $6,000 going against a $17,000 bill. You know that you're going to need, after you've exhausted, listen to me, work study, residential assistant stipend, peer educator stipend, speaking to bursars or making a friend in financial aid. If you still have a balance after that, then it's time to inquire about having a Parent Plus loan. This is where we do a credit check. I give you a form. The form basically gives me authorization to run a credit check on you. It is a hard inquiry on your account. Now, I then get an answer within 48 hours to let me know if you are accepted or rejected. Historically, with HBCUs, parents have been rejected for the Parent Plus loan, thus the declinement of enrollment within HBCUs. That's just the facts. No longer just the myth. That's what happened. Obama 45 helped to make that a little bit easier. A lot more acceptances have happened. However, the interest rate at the time of the plus loan was 7%. It is a fixed rate, but we do look to see if that parent has ever defaulted on a federal loan. If you defaulted on that loan, then you have an issue with a Parent Plus loan, and now you're dealing with Sally Mae and them.
Yep. Or if you owe the IRS money. So if you are a parent and you have a freshman, sophomore, and junior, one of the things I want to encourage you to do now is to get copies of your credit report and start trying to clean it up as much as you can. Because here's the reality. In many cases, if you're talking about a private school, I don't care if it's a PWI or an HBCU, oftentimes, parents, you will have to take a parent loan. That's just the reality of it.
Especially
it's not the worst thing in the world. Loans, I'm a believer that loans in and of itself are not bad. I don't believe in parents taking private loans, but you have to be smart. And part of being smart is preparation. And if you are a junior parent, a sophomore parent, a freshman parent, or even younger, this is the time to start getting your financial house in order. So when your student becomes a senior, it'll be less cumbersome on you.
Also want to point out that federal loans are forgivable. If you work within public service, we can forgive up to $57,500 if you work in teaching, nursing, or law professions. Federal loans right now, guess what? There's no interest because of the pandemic. So a lot of folks don't have their loan statuses right now in forbearance. They're just making an agreement with the federal loan lender that you could not do with Sally Mae and them. I see this question here. My daughter's a high school sophomore. What should she be doing now? I would thank you for the question, Alyssa. First thing I would do is reach out to your community organizations and ask them what scholarships do they currently have. If your child or daughter right now is doing dance recitals or they're practicing an instrument, taekwondo, ask the organization what they're doing for college-bound students, because I have cousins right now, and there are plenty of college graduates that are unemployed because of this current because of this current environment. And it is now 6 months since they've graduated. You only get 6 months to pay back a loan after you drop below 6 credits or you graduate. So now you don't want to be in repayment to be in default on the loan. For that to happen, you need to have your loan have a due date. 270 days of non-payment goes into default, and a default means that it's being reported to your credit towards a collection agency, and you don't want to be on a collection agency because, to quote Jay-Z, mind my money, money in my mind. If you owe me $10, you ain't giving me $9.
Yeah.
There's another question in the chat, a really long one. Yeah. So I would say, so here's the thing, right? When people are looking at this FAFSA and they're looking at their EFC, yes, I agree with you that a lot of times it does look like we're penalizing middle income families. And those are the people who usually get it the worst because they don't qualify for a ton of aid a lot of times. Depending on how many people they have in the household too. That also matters, how many people you have in the household. But it's really, really important to understand that with a 3.7 GPA and 6 AP classes, she's in a good position to get a lot of scholarship money. And so you want to start looking at institutions that are, like, will hand over money, that are good about giving money to students who are really talented, merit-based scholarships. You definitely want to look into those. Those are things that you have to do, but that takes work. Like I said before, and it's a two people thing, right? You can't expect the young person to do it all by herself, and you can't expect the mom to do it all by yourself. You got to work together. So, like, to look for the scholarship money, you guys can split the task. You guys can, she can be looking for some scholarships, and you can also sign up for some of these scholarship websites and help her to find them. And also speaking to the financial aid departments to see how they can support what they have available for a student who has talent like that. Don't get discouraged by what it looks like. I know it when you see the EFC, it's like, oh my God, what is going on? But it also depends on what school she's going to, what she's majoring in. All these things matter as well.
I just wanted that young lady with that 3.7, be sure to apply for the Ron Brown scholarship. Apply for the Ron Brown scholarship. Please apply for that. African Americans, I would say that's probably the premier scholarship for Black students right now. Apply if you have that kind of GPA and those kind of scores. I would be applying for everything, and especially those big money scholarships.
And the instant, I mean, the 3.7, she should be able to get the institutional money too. So that whatever endowment scholarships the schools have. She would definitely be a great candidate for that. As long as, if she's looking to go for HBCU, definitely put in the application for that early decision so she can have the early advantage of applying to the scholarship, the endowment scholarships. Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, real quick. The one thing that I didn't see there was any relationship she has with any administrators within the college. If I have a transfer student coming in going to the spring semester with a 3.7 GPA and they make the trip in the middle of a pandemic to come see me to ask for some money, I'm doing everything I can to recruit the student because he's a 3.7 GPA. That actually helps myself in my department. You need to start making friends and start sending emails. The one thing you want to do, like a bill collector, is speak to the supervisor. Hello, this is a business. Go in and talk to the associate director. You don't like the associate director? Speak to the director. You don't like that? Move up to student affairs, because it's been done to me and some miracles do happen. Not all of us have a magic wand, but if you talk about 3.7 GPA and he's taking AP courses and you can compare different tuition and scholarships they gave you from other universities, oh yeah, we're going to have to talk. There's been times where I had to tell a student, I cannot give you as much as your brother. And she'll tell me, oh, yeah, well, my brother goes to a CUNY and he gets $6,000. Mind you, the brother and this student has the same income situation as the same parent. So why am I not giving them more monies? There's always incentive because, again, college is a business. Put in the work. As long as people know who you are, great. If you got to create a ruckus, don't do that. That should be your very last thing to do, because then you're on the back home.
Don't create enemies before you create.
Yeah, don't just kick in the door, waving the fourth floor. I know we from Brooklyn.
When my daughter was in college, when my daughter was in college, my daughter went to college in Atlanta. when she was in college and I took her down, I made friends with the secretary in the registrar's office. I wouldn't introduce myself. I said, my name is Miss Sparks. I said, now I didn't send, see, this one you got to go into the mama tone. I said,
you scare me right now.
I said, you know, we have a covenant with the blood and this, and I said, but now keep in mind, this was in 2000. So this is 20 years ago. And so we weren't, I said, listen, I'm not asking you to snitch or tattle on anybody, but if you notice that GPA drops along this, you call me. She'll never know that it came from you. That it came from you. And it happened the second semester of her freshman year. And that woman called me. I said, I got it. I send that woman a fruit basket every year.
Oh, beautiful.
Then let me talk about making friends. I had an issue her sophomore year with the finances. I didn't get I didn't. Long story short, I contacted the provost office. So let me tell you about making friends. Long time ago, somebody told me you make friends with the custodian, the secretary, because they're the gatekeepers.
The lunch lady for students.
And I
Waiting what you like.
the provost office. And speaking with the secretary, come to find out her mother was a waitress at a restaurant in Queens, a long established. I said, do you know someone? I said, yeah. She said, that's my mother. Get out of here. I said, well, let me tell you what's going on. And I'm telling you, people, you know what? Even in this modern era where people are texting and tweeting and nothing beats this here.
Nope.
Nothing beats. So even, you know, let me just put it out there. I am facilitating a HBCU information session for New York City area guidance counselors on October 20th. This came from a very successful one back in June. And one of the colleges, you know, calling people, I said, listen, do you know blah, blah, blah? Yeah. I said, listen, nothing beats this. Nothing beats this.
100%.
You know, we're still human beings. Technology notwithstanding, we still like to look at each other's faces because that's how you know if somebody lying or not. You know, we still want to, you know.
Or if they want money.
You want to see the desperation in your face. You know, so, you know, I'm a big believer in you marry what was tried and true with what's now, and you married and you'll have a great marriage as you go through this journey.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I totally agree. I think it's similar to like the dynamic amongst, and like even in this space, right? Like having the varied perspectives, like bringing it together, it just makes everything better. It just enriches the experience. I think that people definitely get stuck in like one way or another, but no, I think, you know, bringing different elements together, different people together, it only, you know, enriches things. And on that note, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for coming and offering your advice, asking questions. I mean, this was amazing. For those that may have only like caught a little bit of the presentation and want to go back and watch the whole entire session, this will be available on our YouTube. It will be saved and available on our YouTube. And so feel free to share with like, for the parents that are on, feel free to share it, you know, with other parents, you know. For students or parents that, you know, would like additional support, the HBCU Hub, once again, is hosting for the second year our HBCU Hub University program, where we are literally walking students through the entire process with you, you know, parents, and just providing the additional support that we know is needed to our youth. And so on that note, thank you everybody again, and please have a wonderful night and an amazing weekend.
Thank you, HBCU Hub.
Yeah, this is great.